And okay, so howdy and welcome back everyone to another Developer Student Club meeting. Today we have a very special guest present with us, and I'm going to leave it upon him to introduce himself properly. But just a little bit about Henry. He's a Google developer expert in machine learning, and today he will be conducting a workshop on Introduction to Node.js, and we'll be learning a lot about web development, and we'll also be deploying a web app to the Google Cloud Platform towards the end. So stay tuned for a lot of exciting things, and Henry, feel free to take it away.
Okay, hello guys. So thank you for having me today one more time. So today I'm gonna talk about how to build Node.js application and how to deploy them in the Google Cloud Platform. So I don't want to spend so much time talking about me and this kind of stuff. I'm gonna go directly to the presentation and then the demo, which is the most exciting part. So this is gonna be just like a 3 slides. I just want guys to understand from where Node.js come from and how this amazing stuff actually happened. And then I'm gonna start talking about JavaScript. So JavaScript is a high-level scripting language that allows developers to manipulate the DOM of the web page. You know, when you load the web page in the browsers, what happens internally is that Google Chrome or whatever is the browser that you are running the app generate this kind of tree that represents the structure of your web page, and you can access to each element and modify their properties dynamically using JavaScript. So then this is actually one of the reasons why this language came from. So, but when I'm saying JavaScript was taught to run in the browser, not in the server. So then, but before to talk about that, I'm gonna talk a little bit about how was JavaScript implemented. So JavaScript is a language that follows a standard that is called ECMAScript. This standard was developed by Brenda H. and of Netscape. So initially named Mocha, then LiveScript, and then finally JavaScript. And this standard basically defined the sugar of the language. So all the kind of new fixture and new kind of syntaxes and everything depend on the script standard that you are using in your application. So this has been kind of the evolution. Right now we are so far from 2017. This was an old image, but you can go to Google and check more about how the standard have evolved. So how is JavaScript executed on the browser? This is a really good thing. So JavaScript, uh, any all the browsers, Google Chrome, Safari, as a part of the architecture, they have something that is called JavaScript Engine. And this engine is basically a software that runs in the backend and execute the JavaScript code that you guys wrote. That means that this is why when you load your web page in the browser, so what is going on in the backside is the JavaScript engine that is running in the background. So just take that code, convert that in the machine in a representation that the machine can actually understand, and this is actually how the magic happened. So Google Chrome, the JavaScript engine implementation is called VA. This is the engine that uses Google Chrome. So Safari use JavaScript engine called WebKit, and Mozilla use an engine that is called SpiderMonkey. And for like Microsoft lovers, so Internet Explorer and Edge use engine called Chakra. So it's really interesting. So that means that the browser have this kind of like component running in the backend that take your code, compile it, and run it. Well, actually not compile, just run execute because JavaScript is not a compile language, but this actually happened. But how did JavaScript finish running up the server? This is really interesting, and was a really awesome idea to like think about this stuff. Well, so what's happening is Ryan Deal, which is actually who is actually the creator and the Node.js. He basically thought, what's happening if I take the VA engine from Chrome and I put this into the server? So what's gonna happen if I take this component specifically and then I move that into the backend? So well, what's happening is this is how actually Node.js born. So Node.js is basically like the VA runtime running. It's just basic. Well, I'm gonna talk more about that, but before I would like to. I don't want to skip this slide. So this is how actually VA work internally. So it VA take your code, create like a tree representation of your code, which basically defined what we talk about it, this kind of syntax tree. And from that tree, they generate a low level representation. And this is actually what the engine run. And internally, V8 optimize the code according to where that code going to be executed. So VA is an open source project. So it's led by Lars Bach and Danish computer programmers who now are working in the Dart project. And this engine is written internally in C++. But then what is Node.js? Node.js is an open source JavaScript runtime that runs on the top of VA. So that means that Node.js allows us to run JavaScript outside of the web browser. So why Node.js needs VA? Because we are basically coding or creating our apps using JavaScript. So that means that this is why we have V8 in the backend of Node.js. And so then what is like actually add Node.js in the top? Well, it's basically all the APIs that we need to access to the system operating, file management, all this kind of thing that we used to do with other kind of language like Java, Python, or this stuff. And this is kind of the architecture. We have our app. So our app use different module of external libraries. And then, so on the behind of our modules, so we have all the backend of Node.js, which is basically VA here, and a bunch of C++ code that made possible, do cool stack, like for instance, read files, write files, or all of this kind of stuff, or have HTTP connection, or all these things. So why Node.js? One of the advantages in Node.js is extremely fast, and one of the reasons is because it's single thread, and I'm gonna talk a little more about that in a bit. And also a good thing like it's asynchronous, and it's perfect for real time, high performance, high traffic application. So Node.js is a good option to develop this kind of apps. Easy to scale, but there are some drawbacks. Like for instance, you can develop Node.js applications that make like a heavy computation task, but initially Node.js wasn't designed for this kind of things. So that means that probably you're gonna find some bottlenecks in the development process. And well, I actually was thinking to go, well, let's explain that. So What is the difference between Node.js and another kind of web servers like Apache or all of this kind of stuff? Well, so how actually happen is when you make your application and you deploy your application in a web server like an Apache, so each request that users generate to the server, so what are actually, so the server in the web server actually create a new thread for each request. So that means that we have something that is called thread pool, and when that thread pool gets full, so well we don't have more threads available. So that means that our application won't be able to handle more requests. But the good thing about Node.js is that we have only one single thread, and all the code is running asynchronous. So that means that we're never gonna have this problem because we are basically doing all the operation in the same thread. Another cool thing about Node.js is JavaScript is everywhere, so we can use JavaScript to develop web apps, mobile apps, and also desktop apps. There is a framework called Electron that allow us to develop applications that going to run in the allow us basically create a standalone desktop apps. Everyone like use Node.js right now, even NASA. So if we have time, I'm gonna see a cool videos that's an application that they have developed using Node.js. But I'm gonna go directly to the demo, which is the cool part. So I hope that you guys can follow me. Okay, so first what we need to have installed in our computer is we need to go directly to the Node.js web page. I'm gonna go to, and you basically download the last version. You can just decide go for the last version, or you can get the stable version. Here you can have access to all the version available and the legacy releases. But in my case, I am using something that is called, I am using a tool that is called NVM. And I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna try to increase the size of this. I don't know if I am able to do that. Can you guys see my code well, the terminal?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So, but instead to download Node.js, the last version, so what I did, and this is a good practice, I download NVM. So if you guys have installed Node.js already in the laptop and the computer that you are right now, so you can go ahead and use that version. But my suggestion is use tools like an NVN. NVN is called Node Version Manager. And what these tools allow you is to run different Node versions in the same machine. And this is the instructions. You can go directly to the Git repository and you can just follow the instructions to install it. This is also a version for Windows developed in Go. So you can also use that one. So how this actually works? So this allow me, for instance, if I want to list all the version that I have installed in my computer, I run the command nvm list, and I have this is all the version that I have. Or if I want to see all the Node version available remote, so I can say remote. Let's say here remote. Let's see. Let's see if I can see all the versions here. Okay, it's nvm else remote. So if I run this command nvm else remote, so what's gonna happen is all the version that I can install in my machine. Okay. So I'm gonna go again to the list of commands to explain you a little bit how to use it. So once you install npm in your machine, you can install any Node version using the nbl install command, specifying the version that you want to have. So right now I am using, I can say npm current. I am using the 14th version in my machine. So I can actually say npm this. You can see that this is the current version that I am using, npm Node.js 14. Okay, so this is gonna be really important because when we're going to do the deploy in Google Cloud, you need to specify the version of the runtime. Okay, so once we have installed Node.js, so we just say Node.js install whatever version that you guys want to install. So you can run Node.js Node version, and you can, basically confirm the version that you guys are using. Now, so how we can develop apps in Node.js? So Node.js, the API offer all that we need to develop apps. So we can go here to the documentation and you can check the version of the API. And you're gonna see that there is a API for file system, an API to do HTTP servers and this kind of stuff. There is a lot of stuff that we can do with Node.js. But we also have, Node.js have a really big community, and we have something that is named npm. And you know that in Python, if you guys have worked with Python before, you have pip, and you can use pip to install third-party libraries. So, well, you can do the same with Node.js, but for that you can use npm. And here you can find, for instance, if you want to check if there is any package in npm to read Excel files, you can see read Excel. Well, so there is a bunch of packages available to do that. Let's see if there is something to read, I don't know, to work with image processing. Well, so there is a lot of libraries to do image processing with Node.js. Let's see if TensorFlow is already here. Yeah, this should. We have a TensorFlow module available for Node.js. And this is how you actually install. You just run npm install TensorFlow, and you just install in your application that particular module. Okay. So also you can, if you are strict and you are like a hard-coder programmer, so that you can go and implement everything by yourself using the API that Node.js exposes. But there is a bunch of packages and the community use them all the time. We're gonna use the Express, which is a Node.js package to develop web applications. Okay, Express. Okay, let's start it. So we also, I come here, I already installed Node.js. If you guys did it, awesome, you can follow me. So then I'm gonna go to my workspace and I'm going to create a new folder. Let's call this folder Node.js. Let's call this my first app. Okay. And if you go into that folder, we're going to execute the command npm init. So, okay, so right now we don't have anything in that folder. We run ls, or we list the directories or and files that are available in this folder, we don't have anything. So we're also gonna run the command npm init, and this tool is going to start asking me some stuff. For instance, if this is a package, what is the name? So I'm gonna just leave like that. So just press enter. If you guys are like managing version or something for your app, you can specify the version that you are working on. Description, just gonna be, this is my first app in Node.js, and the entry point, which gonna be the file. It's kind of like the main file. So I'm just gonna leave like that and continue. Just go ahead, and then npm asks me if I feel comfortable with these results. I'm just gonna say yes. And what this command did was create these files, package Json, in my project, in my folder. So I'm gonna show this, the content of these files, and you can see that this is the same content that npm showed to us before. Okay. Well, so now what I'm gonna do is just I'm gonna go to Visual Studio Code. I open Visual Studio Code and I'm gonna open that folder. So I'm gonna click open folder, and documents are home, workspace, and I'm gonna click here in my first app, and I'm gonna click OK. Well, so now we just have one file, package JSON. We can check that file and edit that file if we need it here. And then we're gonna create our file index.js. So we're gonna create here index.js. Okay. And we're gonna create our file index.js. And then we can start like a running node here. So I can just run any JavaScript command. For instance, if I want to do console log hello. Well, so I'm gonna just run this code. So I can go here to the debugger, and I'm gonna create a launch JSON file here in Visual Studio Code. Well, I can do this using the Visual Studio IDE, but I can also go to the terminal and say node index, the name of the file, and I can run that file. Okay. So we have our first hello world in Node.js. Now we're gonna install the packages that we're gonna need for our web application. And the first package that we're going to install is Express. So then we're gonna go to npm and we're gonna find Express. Okay, I check that this is the package that I want to install. I copy the code to install this in my project. And I come to Visual Studio Code again. And I'm going to paste that command. So I'm just gonna do npm in, you can npm install Express, and you can say save, and you're gonna see what this actually option here does. I'm gonna just press enter, and look at what happened when I install my first module or my first library in my applications. So Node.js create this folder here, no modules, and inside that folder you're gonna find the Express module, but also all the dependencies. And how Node.js or how actually npm figured out we share the dependency of Express. Well, Express also have this package JSON, and you can notice that inside that package JSON there is a section that is called dependencies, and basically when you install Express, all of these packages are installed also. Okay, awesome. So we already have Express installed in our application, and you can notice in the package JSON that now we have our first dependency along with the version in our package JSON file. This is really, really important. Okay, so now I'm going to configure Visual Studio Code to run my application every time that I run here, run on the book. And this is very useful because you can actually debug your Node app. So I'm gonna create a JSON file here. So you go here in this Visual Studio Code in that section, the book, run on the book. And you're gonna have different options. So I'm just gonna click here, create launch JSON file. And I'm gonna specify that this is a Node.js application. And I'm going to create this file, launch JSON. And what's gonna happen here is that every time when I click here in launch program, Visual Studio Code knows which is the script that I want to execute, or what is the entry point of my application. Okay, so let's see if I run here. So now if I go here, remember you can switch from the Explorer view and the run and the book section. You can go here and get back to the files or go to the run and the book section. And you're gonna click here in launch program. Okay, and you see, hello world. The cool thing about use the IDE, in this case Visual Studio Code, to run the app is that you can do the book. For instance, you can say, okay, I want to create a variable 8 equal 2, and I'm going to get b is equal to, and I'm going to create another variable called sum, which is a plus b, and I can create an I can save this, and I can create a breakpoint here. When you go to the left, I'm gonna put this probably in black mode. You guys can actually see better. Okay. So here I'm gonna click. I'm going to make a breakpoint here, and I run my app, and look at what's gonna happen. So when the application is executed, so Visual Studio Code going to stop the execution in that particular line where we have the breakpoint. And you can go here to the boot console, and you can play around with the variables. You can, okay, I want to check since there, which is the value for the variable a, which is the value of b, which is the value of sum. Look at that sum is undefined because this line of code haven't been executed yet. Okay, awesome. So right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start creating my app. And for that, I'm going to use Express, which was the previous module that I installed in my app. We also how actually work is like we just need to import the package in the script, and in the way that how you import the package in the script is you create a variable, and you say I require the Express module, and Visual Studio Code going to notice that you have installed this module there, and I'm going to create an app object, which is an Express app. Okay, and I can start defining the routes of my application. So for instance, I'm gonna say I'm going to create a first route. This is gonna be a get It's gonna be a get method. So that means that I need to define the path. Okay, so that means that when I open my app in the browser, when I open my web application in the browser, if I just put a slash there, so this is going to generate a get request to the server, and then Node.js, in this case, Express, going to notice that you want to execute this function here. Look at that, this is really nice. So JavaScript, you know, that everything in JavaScript are objects. So we can pass function as parameter because the function itself are objects in JavaScript. And this is gonna give us two parameters, request and response. Okay, so with request, we can access to the parameters that we are sending from the client. So that means from the browser to the server. And with the response, we generate the outputs. What we want to do when the user, like call this, make this request. Okay, so I'm just gonna say response send hello world. Okay. So this is gonna be the function that will be executed when the user just specify this path in the browser. Now, what we need to do is just run the server. So I'm just gonna say here, I need to specify in what port I'm going to run my web application. So I can just say, okay, I want to use the port 8080. So I'm gonna use that one, and I'm gonna say my web application going to be listened requests in this port. And right now I only have one request handler, which is this one. So this is what I send here. My app gonna be listened in the port 8080, and this code going to be executed when the server started. So I'm gonna save it, and I'm going to run my code. This is server listening on port 8080. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna put localhost 8080, and this is hello world. This is what is going on. So I can go and change the code and say it, and I can add another row. Instant hi. So hello from PlayStation. And then I restart my app here. Then I come and you can just specify the other path, hi. And I got this. So then I have now an option to, this is my first basic app. Well, but so we can also not only send strings or tests, we can also send files. And this is what we're gonna do next. We're gonna create here a public folder. So I'm gonna create a folder here into my project. And this is gonna be called public. And inside that public, I'm going to create my index.html. I can use also React or any kind of framework that I want to use it. So I can just gonna say, okay, this is gonna be my index.html. Okay. And I'm gonna put here just hello world. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna specify that instead to return just a string, when the user access to my web page, I'm going to send a file. Okay, so for that, I'm just gonna say send file. Sorry, but my computer gets freezing.
So while we're waiting for Henry to fix that, do you all have any questions? You can put them in the chat. We'll address questions later towards the end.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Sorry, my computer gets freeze and restarted. So
It's all right.
I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so what I was trying to do here is return a file instead to just a text or a string. And here I need to specify the path of the files. So in this case, I can just say it public index, whatever. But there are like, we can use actually the path API from Node.js, so that have some functions that are useful to concatenate the paths and this kind of stuff. So I'm gonna say I want to use the path model from the Node.js API. Okay, and I'm gonna send a file that is actually int path.join, and we have this define function dir name that give an access to the to give us the path of the directory where the application is running. So that's mean that I'm saying, okay, so the file that I want to send is located in the current directory, And that particular file is inside the public folder, and it's called index.xml. Okay, and just save it, and I'm gonna run the app again. So I'm gonna come here, launch the app, and we're going to say localhost 8080, and we have our first web page. Okay. So because I wanted to show you guys how to deploy this in Google Cloud, I'm gonna go for this part. And if you want, if you want to see more kind of advanced things in Node.js, so we can extend the talk, or we can later I can explain more cool things that I have prepared for you guys. But I have my app, and let's put like an image. Okay, like let's add an image here. So I'm gonna new folder, and I'm gonna say images, because this is an important part, static files. So what about if I want to host in like an image, or like a JavaScript file, or like a CSS file in my app, and I want to like load that into my web page, so I'm just gonna create. Well, so I'm gonna go here and take images. So I'm just gonna take one of these images here. I'm going to save that image in my download folder. So just go up. Okay, and I'm gonna go to that folder. I'm gonna copy that folder and paste it here. So I'm just gonna go to this folder, images, open container folder, and I put that into the public images folder. Okay, so I have a doc image now in my app. Okay, you can see here. Okay, and I'm gonna load this into my web page. So I'm gonna say, okay, I have an image, and the path of the image is public / images doc. And I save it, and I refresh my app, and I come here, but oops, I cannot see my image, right? So it's weird. And if I go to the error, I'm gonna see that the server is not able to handle that request. So the server doesn't recognize the path / public images doc, blah, blah, blah. So this is what we're gonna do next. We're gonna learn how to set up how to serve static files in a Node.js application. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna say, okay, in my app, I want to create a static folder, a static asset folder. So I want that the app handle all the requests that use this path, public, and I'm gonna get the files from path.join your name public. Well, so what I'm doing here is I am telling to the Express app that I want to serve all the files that are in this folder as static files, where the user put public images, blah, 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 or public JavaScript or whatever. So this is gonna be my static. So I'm just gonna save it. I'm gonna run my app again, or restart it. And I'm gonna try to see if now I am able to load my image. Well, so I can see my image here, okay? Now I'm gonna deploy this in Google Google Platform. So I'm gonna go to my console, Google Cloud Platform console or terminal. go to console. So well, you just need to create a free account in Google Cloud Platform, and you're gonna have access to just projects if you already have. I previously created a project here, but I'm gonna do a new project again in order to explain you guys how to deploy the app. So well, and I'm gonna start creating the project. So I'm gonna go here, and I'm going to click. I'm gonna try to go to the home dashboard. Well, if you guys don't see any project here, so you're gonna have the option to add a new project. So I already have one project here, and this project is active. So but I'm gonna create a new project. So I'm gonna create a new project here. I'm gonna put my first app. So this project needs to be unique. So I am just validating that this ID doesn't exist. My first app, I'm gonna create that app. Okay, this project is being created. Okay, now when the project is created, so I'm gonna be able to see the project here. You see in the list of projects, so I'm gonna click my first app. I'm gonna have access to all the stuff, billing, APIs. If I have some APIs enabled in my project, all of these things. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna check that my project have a billing account already attached. What I can see is that it's already was already set up, so I don't need to do anything in the billing account or anything related. I'm gonna go back to the dashboard. Okay, and when I have my dashboard here, so I'm gonna click this in the menu, navigation menu, and I go to compute engine. Okay, and I'm gonna click there. Okay, and I'm gonna say that I want to create an application container. In this case, is what the app engine does is basically like a container. It's a machine instance running in the Google Cloud infrastructure that hosts our app, and we're gonna deploy our app in that machine. So we're gonna click here and create app. So you need to specify the region. I'm gonna leave that by default, US Central. I'm gonna create my app. I need to specify the language that I'm going to use. All of those are available. So I'm gonna say that it's a Node.js application, and I'm just gonna leave a standard. Next, and Google App Engine told me that the app is being created. So I just need to wait for it. Nice. And then I just need to go and run these commands in my application. But before, I need to do some changes in my project. And one of those is, you see that I define here the port 8080, but I don't know which port Google Cloud going to assign, or Google App Engine going to assign to my app for running it. So we need to specify that first. Validate is there is not a port variable defined in the environment, and if it's not, so just take by default 8080. That means that when my application runs, so what's gonna happen is we're gonna check that if there is any kind of port in the environment variable defined. If not, then just go ahead and run my application in the 8080 port. Okay. So this is one of the first changes that I need to do. The other change that I need to do is I need to come here and create a file inside the root folder. And these files, we're gonna call this file app.yaml. So we need to create this file. So I'm gonna try to app.yaml, okay? So I'm gonna create that file. And there we need to define which kind of machine we're gonna use to run our app, and also what is the Node.js runtime that I'm going to use. I'm gonna use the runtime Node.js 14 because I am running the Node.js 14 version in my computer, and the kind of instance class or the kind of machine that I'm going to use for host my application is gonna be F2. There are different options, so I'm gonna show you here in a minute. So you go instance class Google Cloud Platform Engine, Google Cloud Platform Engine, and you're gonna see that there is a list of different machines. I am specifying as one. This is have a 256 megabytes of RAM. This is the CPU limit. The scaling is already automatic, so that means that in case that my application need more resources, so you know, like the application going to be migrated to a better instance. So well, it depends of me what instance I want to run. So I just gonna go for the free version. When I got that, the next change that I need to do, well, so I finish, I create this file, I define the runtime, the instance of the machine that I'm going to run in the Google Cloud App Engine platform. And now what I need to do is specify which gonna be the entry point of the application. And I'm gonna do that in the package JSON. So here in the scripts, so I need to add another script here, and I'm gonna say that this is gonna be the start command. And what's gonna happen is that what Google App Engine going to do is going to find this command defined in the package JSON files. Well, first going to install all the dependencies that I need for run my project. Then it's going to run the start command, and the start command going to do just node index.js. Okay, it should be enough to run my application in Google Cloud. So let's see if we are able to do that. So okay, so I'm gonna just go here to the terminal, and I'm going to run these commands that I got when I create the app in the Google App Engine. So you're just gonna start in Google Cloud Init. I copy this command, I paste it, and it's asking me if I want to create another configuration. So previously my default project was Tamu demo. So yes, then I say, okay, I want to create a new configuration, or I want to reinitialize the default parameters. So I'm gonna just go for the first one. Now I'm gonna wait. It used to take a few minutes to run. And I'm gonna specify what is the account that I'm going to use. So I'm gonna say one, which is the project that I want to deploy. So I'm gonna say my first app. Okay, so I'm just gonna say one. And then what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go and run the next command, which is Google App Deploy. And it should be enough. I hope so. Now, okay, so Google Cloud commands, the Google Cloud SDK command asks me to check if this is the project, target project. if this URL makes sense. I said yes, and the deployment going to start. There is an important thing here, and probably you are wondering how I am able to run these commands in my developed machine. So well, you need to go to Google and look for Google Cloud Platform SDK, and you can just go and follow this link, installing Google Cloud SDK, and you guys gonna find here the instruction for your system operating. So if you want to install in Windows, there is just an installer that you download, or in this case I am using Ubuntu, so then I just follow this instruction here, and that's it. This is the only thing that you guys need to do. After that, you're gonna be able to run Google Cloud commands in the terminal. Well, so right now my application is being deployed. So they say that the file upload done, and now it's updating the service. Let's see what happened. So I have 2 minutes. Well, so you guys can see that it's really easy to create an app using Express. You just create an instance of Express app, and you define the roads. So you define what kind of you can actually separate in different files the roads, and your project gonna be better organized. Or you can just create an API using Express, and your application can be implemented in React or any kind of single page app framework, kind of like Angular or Vue or this kind of tools. Well, so they say the updating service done, setting traffic split for service. Let's see. Okay, they say that was successfully deployed. You guys can run Google Cloud App Browse. And this is your app running in Google Cloud. It's really simple. So if any time that you make any kind of changes in your app or update any part of the code or anything here in your applications, you just need to run the Google App Deploy command again, and that's it, nothing else. So you already set up everything. So I'm gonna show you kind of the demo that I wanted to it's a very short time to show more sophisticated things, but I wanted to show what demo I prepared, and I'm gonna share the code with you guys in GitHub. So I'm gonna close here. So in the demo, so I actually make an application using Materialize. So I'm gonna show you guys how it looks like. Let me run my app here. So in this project, so I'm gonna launch the project. Okay, my project is listening in port 8080. And for that demo, what I did was I created this user interface. So when you guys can upload an image, so for instance, this image of Alan Turing, and you click here in upload, and this is gonna send the image to the server. I'm going to get that image in base64 encode, and I'm going to send that image to the Google Custom Vision API and get the coordinates of the face. There are some issues here. I didn't have time to figure it out, these coordinates here, but I'm going to go through the code and to explain you a little bit how it actually works. So this is the web page, and I encapsulate all the code in the front end in one script called app.js. This is, remember that here I am talking about JavaScript running in the client or in the browser, and the server.js is running in the server. So So what I did here is just like a send button, an input file, and a canvas object. So when I change the file in the input, so I check that there is an image. So this is a valid image. So I check here, check if this file is actually like a real image. And I display this image in the canvas using this function here. And then I create this function that take the canvas and convert the canvas content to a base64 encode image representation. So what that's meaning, like I encode the image using this format, base64. So if I put any code here and I say, well, I know how to show that. So base64 image. Really something like that. You know, it's kind of like an image or like a file encode like a string. So then I give the canvas, convert the image, I convert the canvas into an image in that format, and I send this to the server. And I do like a post request, and I send this to like an upload image route. And here in the server, I have this function that actually process that image. So get that image from the request, convert that image in a buffer, and send this to the Google Vision API. There is a function that I create here in the top that send the image to the Google API and get the result back. And so it's a bunch of stuff that I wanted to show you, but the time is very short. So I don't know if you guys have any question. So feel free if you want to contact me in either in GitHub or in link. So I'm gonna be happy to answer your question. So Node.js is I did my thesis in Node.js actually, and was machine learning as a service platform, kind of like just basically a platform to run and validate machine learning models. And I actually proved that Node.js can be used for any kind of application. And since then, for all the kind of web development part that I need to do in my job every day, so I used to use Node.js. I like also Python, but more for like a machine learning stuff or these kind of things. But Node.js is really good for develop web apps that require like high traffic. So application like LinkedIn, I don't know. So I wanted to show you that before actually too. Sorry guys for the time. So this application was a really good application developed by NASA and Node.js. So Node.js is also people use Node.js a lot for Internet of Things. So this application that is called OpenMCT is was developed in Node.js. The backend of the application, I think that probably I'm not sure what they use for the front end. I actually have a tool here that told me what. Anyway, so I don't know if you guys have any questions.
Okay, if you all don't have questions right now, you can reach out to Henry on our Slack. And other than that, you can post your questions in the questions channel if you want. But thank you so much for the great presentation, Henry. It was a really interactive like demo. Really helped everyone a lot. And we're gonna end it here. Thank you everyone so much for coming. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you guys for the invitation and have a good night.
You too. Bye.